Welcome, and we'll start off with Habracha. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu, Melech HaOlam, Asher Kitshanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu la'asot b'divrei Torah.
Amen.
And here we are. This is where we left off last time, and we're in Parshat vaYetzei, and it picked up with Jacob having to flee to go to Padan Aram and to his uncle Laban. And we had two reasons for that. One was that Isaac and Rebekah wanted him to marry a woman who was from the family and not a Canaanite woman, as Esau had done. And the second reason, which was perhaps a more compelling reason, was that Esau was ready to kill him for having cheated him out of his blessing. And where we're at right now is that he alights upon a place and he lies down to sleep, and he has this dream of these angels and the ladder, etc. Some of you, I'm sure, but many are familiar with this. So, and God appears to him and speaks to him and basically promises right in this sentence here how he's going to guard him, and he's going to return him back to this land of Beersheba, and he will not forsake him until he has accomplished everything about which he's spoken. So, Vayikatz Yaakov Mishnato, Jacob awoke from his sleep. Vayomer, and he said, or he thought, right? Achen, indeed, Yesh Hashem b'makom hazeh, Hashem is in this place, Vanochi lo yadati, and but I was not aware of it. I didn't know that. And we've got a brief Rashi, if I'm not mistaken. Let me find it right here. Vanochi lo yadati, but I didn't know. She'im yadati, and the implication is that had I known, lo yashanti b'makom kadosh kazeh, I wouldn't have gone to sleep in such a holy place. And now we go on to a major. Vayira vayomar, and he was in fear, he was in awe. Vayomar, and he again thought, Ma Nora, here's the same root, Nora, from Yara. How awesome, how terrifying, perhaps, but awesome is good. Hamakom hazeh is this place. Ein zeh ki im beit Elohim, this is none other but the house of Elohim, of God, v'zeh shar hashamayim, and this is the gate of heaven. So we're having here, as Rashi is going to point out, an experience in a way of the temple, right? It's not stated explicitly, but if you think about it, we have Abraham and Isaac who have an experience of the site of the temple, and we also have Jacob having also an experience that involves something that's akin to a temple experience. Here we are. Ki im beit Elohim. It is nothing but the house of Elohim. Amar Rabbi Elazar b'shem Rabbi Yossi ben Zimra. So Rabbi Elazar, in the name of Rabbi Yossi ben Zimra, Asulam hazeh, this ladder that he dreamt of, Omed be'Beersheba, it stands in Beersheba, which is where Jacob departed. Ve'emtza shipu'o, in the middle of its slope, Magia keneged Beit Hamikdash, that reaches opposite Beit Hamikdash, the temple, the holy house. Shebe'er Sheva explains now geography. Shebe'er Sheva omed bidroma shel Yehuda, because Beersheba is located in the south of the location of Judah. Yerushalayim bitzforna, and Jerusalem is north of Beersheba. Bigvul shebein Yehuda uBinyamin, that is right on the border between, oh my heavens, sorry, between Judah and Benjamin, the tribal location of Judah and Benjamin. And I'm going to give me one moment, please. All right. Just be sure if that you're muted if you're not going to actually have a question. Let's see. Find it. Uveit El and Beth El haya betzafon shel nachalat Binyamin. And Beth El was on the north side of the allotment or the tribal portion of Benjamin, or the inheritance of Benjamin, Bigvul Shebein Binyamin, which is on the border between Benjamin, Uvein Bnei Yosef, and the one of the sons of Joseph. So either Ephraim or Manasseh, one of those tribal portions. And of course, Jacob at this point is in Beth El, I believe. Nimtza Sulam Shiraglav Be'er-Sheva. And so consequently, you have a ladder whose feet are in Beer-Sheva, Berosho Beveit El, and its top of the ladder is in Beit El, Ma'agia Emtza Shipu'o Neged Jerusalem. So consequently, the middle of its slope is opposite Jerusalem. Uk Kelefi Amru Rabotenu, and since our rabbis have said, our sages have said, She'amar HaKadosh Baruch Hu, so the Holy One said, was thinking, Tzaddik Zeh, this righteous person, referring to Jacob. And of course, it's interesting, right, that as far as what we've read about Jacob to this point, he doesn't seem like such a tzaddik. But we aren't just talking about him up to this point. We're also, although there may be elements in his life that indicate that he is a tzaddik, and these particular behaviors are very specific, but certainly as his life plays itself out, he pays for all of his mistakes. And maybe that's an interesting take on a tzaddik, right? That a tzaddik, part of being a tzaddik is to learn from your mistakes. It's not that you never commit mistakes or bad decisions, but rather that you learn from those bad decisions, and in fact, you do tshuva. You repent them, you regret them, and you try to live the rest of your life without repeating those bad behaviors. That could have something to do with being a tzaddik. So anyway, God is saying, tzaddik zeh ba leveit beloni, that this tzaddik has come to my, malon is from the word lalun, which means to spend the night. So he has come to my, I don't know if there's an English equivalent. A malon in modern Hebrew refers to a hotel, because generally you spend the night in a hotel. So my place of spending the night. Vayipater belo lina. This is a rhetorical question. Should he depart without having slept? He's come to my malon. Should he be not having experienced lina? So this is why there are other midrashim that suggest that the sun set early, and that's why in that particular when Jacob reached Beth El, and that's why he was bedded down for the night. For Od Amru, and they said, moreover, Yaakov Karo Lierushalayim Beit El. So it says Jacob called Jerusalem Beth El. VaYetzei Luz he, and that's the same as Luz. Sorry. Let me read this correctly. They're asking a question. Vezor Luz he, isn't this Luz velo Yerushalayim and not Jerusalem? So, in other words, Beth El is actually Luz, and it isn't Jerusalem, but he's calling it Jerusalem. Umechan lamadnu lomar kain. So, on what basis have we inferred such a thing? Are we saying such a thing? Omer ani Shne'ekar haramiyat. Look at this. So I would like to suggest that Mount Moriah, which we know is the site of the temple, was uprooted, uva lechan, and it came to this place. Vezo hi kfitzat haaretz. And this, so I think this is Rashi giving his own opinion here. He's saying this is what's referenced when they talk about kfitzat haaretz, the jumping of the earth. Ha'amura b'shchitat chulin, that is talked about in the tractate, the chapter of the tractate chulin that's called shchitat chulin, the slaughtering of non-sacrificial meat. Sheba Beit HaMikdash Likrato, that in fact the sanctuary, the holy temple, came to greet him, Ad Beit El, to Beth El. This is a very powerful literary statement here. Again, why I want to keep looking at the Bible and certainly the Torah passages in a much more literary sense, and not to take this literally, okay, but to understand that there is something being said here about our relationship to our sanctuary, and this would certainly underline a major point that Heschel tries to make, and that is it's not as much us going to try and search for God as God reaching out to us. And this would in fact be a proof text for Heschel, that here we have that God wants so much to have us live a life that is in relationship to him, that he will go to this kind of trouble. And that the idea that Jacob's descendants, of course, who would become the Jewish people, would have such a relationship. So, Vezehu ve'yifka mamakom. So Rashi is saying this is exactly what is meant in the Torah text where it says paga, right? He alighted on the place. So bamakom could be the place. It's also a way of describing God. In other words, that God came to meet him and the two of them bumped into each other. But it's not a sort of casual bumping into. So this is, as I said, a very unusual Rashi that actually discusses and takes something that appears to be a contradiction and in fact learns a very powerful idea from this. So, ve'im tomar, but if you say, Keshe'avar Yaakov al Beit HaMikdash, that if you say that Jacob passed by the sanctuary, Madua lo akvo sham, why didn't God, if in fact Jacob was on his journey and he went by Mount Moriah, why didn't he hold him up there? Ihu lo yehiv leve lehit palel b'makom, sorry, sham, I think the Ihu goes here. Why didn't God make him hold up there? He himself, that is Jacob. Lo yehiv leve lehit palel b'makom shehit palelu avotav. So, in other words, I'm sorry. Again, I'm working through the syntax. So again, akvo sham, comma, ihu lo yehiv leve lehit palel b'makom shehit palelu avotav. He, that is to say, Jacob, right, shouldn't be given the opportunity to pray in the place where his ancestors, where his fathers prayed. In other words, this is a challenge to what Rashi has said. Okay. Let me find it. It skipped. Okay. Umin hashamayim ikvuhu ihu ad haran. Okay. So it says, and from heaven, they in fact held him up ad haran azar, because there is a tradition that he actually went to Haran, because the opening sentence of this parsha says that Jacob left Beersheba and went to Haran. So, Ihu ad Haran azar, Okay, so I'm playing around with understanding what we're saying here. Okay, so it says, and in fact, they did hold him up at Haran Azal because he had gone to Haran, Amrinan beperek Gid Hanasheh, as is mentioned again in a tractate in the Talmud called Gid Hanasheh, the Kara Ukra Mochiach, and in fact, the scripture proves this because it says Vayelech Harana. He went to Haran. Kimata lecharan, and what it says is when he arrived at Haran, Amar, he said to himself, Efshar she'avarti al makom shehitpalalu avotai velo hitpalalti bo. So again, this is all part of challenging the interpretation that we've just given, because in this interpretation, he gets to Haran, and then he says, is it possible that I passed over the place where my fathers prayed and I didn't pray there? Okay. Yahav data. So here's how we explain this. Yahav da'ate lemehedar v'chazar. So he made up his mind to return. V'chazar ad Beth El. And in fact, he got as far as Beth El. V'kaftsa lo haaretz. And at that point, it says, the earth jumped for him. Okay. Beth El lo zehu hasamuch la'ai. Okay. Ela leYerushalayim. So he says, this Beth El, it's a different Beth El. It's not the Beth El that is close to a city called Ai, but to Jerusalem. V'al Shem shahaita ir ha'Elohim kra'ah Beth El. And for this reason, because it was the city of God, it was called Beth El. V'hu har Hamoriah, and that is har Hamoriah. Shehit palel bo Avraham, where Abraham had prayed. V'hu hasadeh, and this is also the field Shehit palel bo Yitzchak, where Isaac prayed. V'chein amru besota, and likewise they say in the tractate Sota in the Talmud, L'chu v'na'aleh, let us go up. Let's go and go up to the to Beth El, maybe it says. I don't have that quote filled here. Lo ka'Avraham shekra'o har, v'lo k'Yitzchak shekra'o sader. We don't say it like, we don't refer to it as Abraham referred to it, because he called it a mountain. V'lo k'Yitzchak, and we don't describe it as Isaac did, who called it a field. Ela k'Yaakov, but there it's called, we refer to it as Jacob did, Shekra'o Beit El. Okay, so how do we put this all together? Let me finish this up. Okay, so Jacob called it Beth El, so it says V'na'aleh. I'm going to have to say it says L'chu v'na'aleh Beit El. Okay, let us go to Beit El, the house of the Lord. So Adkan. This means this is the end of a quote. Piresh Rashi Meduyak. He says this is an explanation of Rashi that is carefully represented. So what's going on here? If I put this all together, all this information together, he got, okay, this is saying, okay, it sounds like a contradiction, but I'm going to guess from what Rashi said at the beginning, that in fact, when it says kaftsa haaretz, that the earth jumped, that we're talking about the fact that he actually got to Luz, to the place called Luz, and at that point, the temple came to him. I want to stay with that. Complicated Rashi, and but that's as I understand it. If any of you have any more information to clarify what we just did, I will be happy to hear it. Lauren, are you seeing anything in the material you have?
Well,
Yes?
it's kind of long and complex, and it's hard for me to pull apart.
Okay. So if you want to scan it and pull and send it to me, I'll take another look, because I want to make sure that I'm giving you correct information.
Yeah, I'll have to just the English.
Right, that's fine.
And it'll have to be like
And I'll take a look at Sfaria as well.
2 photos because it won't fit on one.
Yes. Okay. And again, let's just, okay, I'll do a little bit more. So he says, Ma Nora, right? How awesome. Tirgame, okay, or the Aramaic, Ma Dechilu Atra Hadain. So Dechilu is this, so Atra Hadain means this place. Dechilo means, has to do with fear, right? So whether or not, again, I want to get a better handle on this particular Aramaic here, okay? So let's keep going with the Rashi. Dechilo Shem Davarhu. So he says the word Dechilo is Shem Davar, is the name of a thing. In other words, it's a noun. Kamo Suchaltano, it looks like. V'kiso lemelabesh. So v'kasu lemelabesh. So this all, again, this is difficult for me. I'm going to have to go back and research this and see what the point is that he is saying here. V'zeh shar hashamayim, this is the gate of heaven. Makom tefillah, it's a place of prayer. La'alot tfilatam hashamayma, to raise up their prayers to heaven. So again, we think of the ladder. We think, we pray, and we're using a metaphor possibly of the idea of our prayers being taken up to heaven and being presented before God in that way. Umidrasho, and a midrashic approach to this is Shebeit HaMikdash Shel Mala, that there is a heavenly Beit HaMikdash, that there's a heavenly temple. Mechuvan Keneged Beit HaMikdash Shel Mata is going to be my guess right there. That the idea of this is saying that it's such a place, is saying that that there is this idea of a heavenly Beit HaMikdash that stands opposite the physical Beit HaMikdash that is in Jerusalem. Again, so there's stuff to play with here. In other words, so why are we talking this way? And the idea that even though we realize the limitations of a physical structure, that saying that there is something on a much higher spiritual level that exists to correspond to what we're doing down here on earth. So I think this is a good place to stop for today. And
well, the next two don't have Rashis.
Okay. All right.
So you could probably.
All right. Okay. I want to make sure that what we did today is clear and that I'm giving a good explanation of it.
Alrighty.
Okay. I'm happy to go on. Vayash came. He arose early. Yaakov baboker. So Jacob arose early baboker in the morning. Vayikach et ha'evan, and he took the stone asher sam mirashotav, which he had placed underneath his head. Vayasim oto matzeva, and he made a pillar of it. Vayitzok shemen arosha, and he poured out oil on top of it, on its top. Vayikra et shem hamakomahu Bet El, and he called the name of this place Bet El. Va'ulam Luz shem ha'ir larishona. However, the name of the city was Luz to begin with. So, and we can take it from here tomorrow. But as I said, I do want to make sure I have a chance to look over some of this stuff and make sure that I'm explaining it to you properly. Let me stop the share. So this was quite challenging today, as you can see. And I'm going to stop the recording at this point.